Hi.
Hi. Welcome to the Coaching Mixer. It's been a minute for us, maybe not for listeners.
Yeah, we've put out an episode, I think, almost weekly, but yeah, it's been a while since we recorded, and I'm
Yeah,
so glad to see you. I missed you.
you too. I know I miss you.
I have
I
to
feel
tell
like
you, an
I,
hour ago, I was like, I gotta go. Steve, I need to make a drink and da da da. And I sat down and I'm like, nope, I have one full hour
oh, you thought it was
before.
earlier. I guess we are meeting a little later than we normally meet.
Yeah, but I thought about it. I'm like, am I gonna drink this drink now or save it? And I saved it so that I could be
Oh,
coherent
okay.
enough.
We could do one experimental recording where we start our cocktails an hour before and then drink a second cocktail. That
Yeah,
would be
I
madness.
bet it would be interesting.
What are you drinking today?
We called it the Fairy Godmother.
Ooh,
It is whiskey with amaretto, a cherry, and lime. And by
that
say
sounds
we, I
delicious.
mean Steve, of course, made it.
The
My
royal we.
yes, lovely
Inspired by
Steve.
you.
Lovely Steve. I just executive chef the kitchen and he
It's
bartends. What are
an
you
important role.
drinking?
Mine is very like simplest I could possibly do. It's whiskey and some tangerine or oh what's it called? Sumo oranges.
Ooh,
Oranges. There's like sumo orange juice, which is
what?
the most magical orange juice I've ever had in my life. It's like so tart, so sweet, so fresh tasting. Yeah.
Well,
Apparently sumo oranges are like a big thing. And
cheers.
then
I've
I thought
never
that
had one.
was, yeah, they're delicious if you get the chance to try. I also thought it was too boring, so I was like, I'm gonna pour some dried rosemary on top. So I did that. I don't know if it was a good idea or not.
Well, I want to see how it tastes. I want to see your reaction.
I think good idea.
Yeah.
I might have a little bit stuck in my teeth, but it's good. Yeah.
It sounds like very like a breakfast cocktail. This is like a
Yes.
brunch.
Yeah. It's like mimosa, but with whiskey instead. But
Love it.
tasty.
I love
Tasty.
it. Cheers.
Yes. Cheers.
Yeah, that's good. Yum. All right.
Yum.
We haven't talked for such a long time.
I
I want to
know.
know what has been on your mind, what's going on. Tell me where you want to start today.
So something that has been on my mind because I went through a period, we were just talking where I went through a period where I feel like relatively I was doing very little. And I had kind of like intentionally scaled back a lot on my business and my life. And now I'm in a moment where the exact opposite is true, where I'm doing a lot. And I'm thinking a lot about like kind of how to create your own pace in your coaching business. And I
Mm,
think that's something you do from the outside. It looks like you do it particularly well, like by which I mean very intentionally. And
mhm,
also from the outside, it looks like you do a lot, but at like a sustainable seeming pace. And that's not something I observe in a lot of coaching businesses. I observe a lot of extremes. And I would like to talk about like how do you feel like that is something you have done or created well? And like, can we talk about how?
yeah, yeah. I appreciate you saying that because it's not just for marketing that it looks like that. It's,
Mhm.
I try to portray the actual truth of what my business and life looks like, but I can appreciate it because gosh, I remember getting ready to go on a vacation when my kids were really young and we were going to like Hawaii for a month. And I just remember feeling so panicked about I was working on a book and my business had just kind of really started to pick up. And I was really freaked out about, first of all, not working for a big chunk of time, but also like thinking about it because I think sometimes people don't understand that when you're an entrepreneur, it's not just like you're pouring your heart and your soul and your vision and all of the stuff into what you do, but it's also like on your mind. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like early stage dating someone where you're like, not with you right now, but I'm thinking about you and I'm wondering what you're doing and I'm wondering if you're thinking about me. There's almost like a bit of like a panic that I noticed within myself. And I know that I've struggled with overworking and all of the things. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would just say I I wish I just had a formula I could say, oh, this is how you do it. It's easy. A, B, C. This is how it goes.
Yeah.
But like it actually took me a number of years and a lot of trial and error to figure out what that cadence was for me.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes to be willing to just like do some really like painful stuff. Like I sometimes work with I live in Eastern Standard Time. And for a while I had West Coast clients. And that would mean that I would be getting on to coaching calls at 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
At some point, I used to have clients in Australia. And that, like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it was 6 in the morning. And it was like just very weird hours that I was willing
Yeah.
to keep at the beginning of my business. But then it wasn't like, it was just really being honest with myself about what is sustainable and what isn't. And
Mm-hmm.
then doing the hardest thing, which is like sometimes saying no to amazing fit clients with a really great, like it's going to be a great relationship and the revenue is amazing, but knowing that if they can only meet at like 5 a.m. on a Friday morning, I'm probably not going to be able to give them my best.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be sustainable. Might be able to do it for a
Yeah.
6 month program. But if that person wants to renew, I don't want to ever feel like, oh, I hope they don't sign up again. That's a bad place to
Yeah.
be, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you say you kind of have gone into a place that maybe feels it's just a different pace than where you were at,
Mm-hmm.
are there things that like are there moments where you're like, this is probably not what I would like to do for the long term? Like this is okay for this season, but like, do you have you or have those kind of I hate the like red flag, but like, are there red
Yes.
flags? Okay.
100%. Yes. I mean, I think this is definitely a pace at which it's like it feels to me like a sprint, and that doesn't feel sustainable. I think at the same time, I think there is a place for sprints
Mm-hmm.
in a person's life. And so like it does like it's interesting. It feels kind of good in some ways to be sprinting,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also like navigating, okay, how long do I give this sprint? Is there a cost to it that I'm like not seeing and not aware of? And like at what point will it be time for me to slow down?
Yeah.
And I think part of that is like it's so interesting because last year literally like I like downsized
Mm-hmm.
intentionally, and I my business was not huge before that. Like I have never really like I think my thing that I'm like my growth point right now is working as hard for myself as I do for other people, which
Yes.
maybe some listeners can relate to, and I have not yet figured out. But I think like yeah, last year, like I had some health stuff going on. And so, like, I intentionally downsized and did very little. And then I became bored of that and with that. And so, like, it does feel kind of good to like stretch and just to be like doing a lot. There's a part
Mm-hmm.
of that that does feel really good. So, like, it's an interesting space to be in.
Yeah.
Because I think in the past I have definitely overworked and overextended myself, but like without an awareness, or not even an awareness, like I think I've developed a little bit more of a confidence in myself and my
Mm-hmm.
ability to like say no to certain things and then have other opportunities
Mm-hmm.
emerge or create opportunities for myself. I wouldn't say it's like 100%, but that I think that's a key of what feels different to me and is what is allowing me to be like, okay, yeah, this is a sprint. And I trust that for now, I trust myself to be able to like walk away
Mm-hmm.
if and when it's time.
Yeah. And I mean, isn't that everything? Because I mean, I think everybody can relate to it's sometimes actually for most people, I think it probably is easier to work harder for other people and their businesses or
Hmm.
like whatever it is, because the metrics are more clear really often. Like you get
Yeah.
direct feedback as to whether you're doing a good job or not. Whereas, like when we're in our own business, sometimes that happens, but often, like I think about everything as like whatever I'm doing today, I'm not looking for I mean, in launch periods, I'm sure I'm looking for revenue tomorrow, but a lot of times,
Right.
something like if I'm working on a book, the ripple result of that is not, I'm not going to see the echo of that effort for a long time.
Hmm. And yeah, that's a lot of work now.
It's a lot of work now.
Hmm.
It might not have the ripple effect. I've written a couple books. It sometimes does not have the grand effect that I hope it will.
Hmm.
But and that, I don't know, like that can feel like that's like there's like an insecurity that comes with that. Whereas when you're in
Yeah.
someone else's business with, clear KPIs and clear expectations and the like hours and salary, there's like a felt sense of safety, which is why
Hmm.
I think a lot of people never become entrepreneurs, because this way of life is a little wild.
It's a little wild, yes. And also I think what you said at the beginning was of this like couple moments ago was really powerful that like I think there is a lot of structure that you inherit with working with or for other people
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that just like most people don't build for
Yeah.
themselves or like even like either lack the skill set to build or the awareness to build or like it's not even on their radar necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
That does contribute to that like you have a time that you
Yep.
log on to your your laptop and you have clear consequences if you don't, and you have like usually project timelines that are
Mm-hmm.
coordinated with people outside of you that are
Yep.
in. There's like a culture as well that
Mm-hmm.
you're inheriting. And like, it's a beautiful thing to be able to create those things for yourself. But I don't think a lot of people have it on their radar, all that changes when you work for yourself.
Oh my
And
God.
then they're like, why am I not producing at the same level or quality as I was when I was working for someone else? But I think it is that like there's a whole structure and system and culture that most people don't think to create. And it takes time to create for yourself as well.
It takes time, and it's like the least sexy thing about business. Like no one's like, ooh, I can't wait to
Yeah.
create my processes. Ooh,
I mean, a little
yeah.
bit me, but I
Give me
have
a
a weird
checklist.
brain.
Yes. Like a lot of people, I think,
Yeah.
there's like the fantasy of I leave my corporate job and I'm free and I do what I want and the money rolls in and it's all amazing. But it's like there's a reason that successful companies often have processes and systems and
Yeah.
expectations. And it seems like that it's kind of like, I used to really hate having like a calendar. I was like, ugh,
Oh, me
calendaring.
too.
It's like very Sagittarius. I'm like, I live with the wind. Where's the wind
Yeah.
going to take me?
Oh my God. Yes. I'm not Sagittarius, but 100% yes.
But now I'm like, oh my God, this is the greatest gift I've ever given myself, is to
Mm.
write down the things I intend to do with my time and then try to stick with those things. And if I don't want to, or really don't have the energy for that specific thing, like yesterday I was like, okay, it's my writing time and I've got accountability because I invited some of my clients to meet me on Zoom and we're going to write together. And I was like getting ready. I'm like, I'm dreading this.
Mm-hmm.
I was really like, I'm like, well, that's not really the energy I want to bring into this beautiful hour with them. So I was like, you know what? I think what I feel like doing is I'm doing this Oracle deck. Um, and I'm like, I'm going to create a card in the hour, which was a little nerve wracking because one of
Yeah.
them said, I can't wait to see what you make. Will you show us the end product? And I
Oh
was like, I
no, show
sure
and
will.
tell.
But then like 30 minutes in, like I'm using pastels. And the thing with them that I've noticed is it looks like total garbage until like the last 2 minutes. I mean, I'm not a fine artist, so who knows? Maybe they all look like garbage anyway. But like to me, I'm like panicking. It's like, okay, there's 15 more minutes. This is a mess, but then it comes together and it's like, oh, what a fun thing. But I mean, what you're talking about, it's sort of like that process. It's like, can we sit through the mess of like figuring out how it's going to come together and how it's going to work and how it's going to like be cohesive, or is it just not going to do that? Like, is this not the right fit for where I am at in my life? Um,
Yeah.
because even though I don't run, I'm not a runner, but when you talked about like the sprint, it's like, okay, but sprinters then go lay down for like a
Yes.
day.
Yes.
They go eat
Which I
their
talk to
carbs.
my, and that's like a part of the plan as well. Like
Right.
I talk to my clients about this all the time. I have some marathon runners who I've had as clients. And like you don't, when you're training for a marathon, you don't train the same way every day. You
Mm-mm.
don't
Mm-hmm.
work equally every day. Your body needs fluctuation. And like you can't sprint, even like when you're running the marathon, you can't sprint the whole time, but also like in the training process. And you, there
Yeah.
are ways like you have to take care of yourself, which that is something I'm like a little proud of myself for
Good.
doing is really focusing on the question of how can I take care of myself during this sprint. There are always ways for improvement, but I've like given myself a lot of grace. Um, but yeah, that said, I am fascinated by the like I'm like I want to pick your brain. Like,
Yeah.
how do you decide like what to work on? Because it seems like you have developed the skill of like allowing this maybe the Sagittarius part of you to like dream and roam a little bit. Like
Mm.
you seem to be like playful
Yeah.
with your business, yet
Yeah.
it's also like kind of ground like you're not just going at the whims of I feel like if you were just like following wherever the wind blew, your business would look very different. And like maybe you would be taking on too much or something. You seem to be like have a good balance there.
Yeah, because I definitely spent a number of years just doing that. Like, I'm like, I'm glad it doesn't look like I'm doing that anymore because
I
I'm,
tried to do that and then I just ended up like doing absolutely nothing for a while.
yeah. And I mean, I think my kind of commitment to myself is I'm allowed to follow any inspiring idea that I have, but I have to be willing to commit to it for a year. So if I
Hmm.
want to try a new program, I did a membership a couple of years ago where I was like, I just need a canvas to like do the creative things because I knew I was going to be waiting for our last book to be published for a billion years because that's how book publishing goes. You're just like, I'm finished. And they're like, it's coming out in July. You're like,
You're
oh
still gonna have to pretend you
God.
love it for a long time
Yeah. And
because it's
like,
gonna
I'm
require
already like
something.
three more book ideas have already come. And
Yeah.
so I gave myself this canvas of like, I'm going to do this membership. I'm going to teach yoga classes and meditation, and I'm going to do like magical things and tarot
Hmm.
cards and all of the
Hmm.
stuff. And I was like, people can join it for the time that it exists. And I don't know how long that will be. Um, and then when it's done, I'll have this library that maybe I'll do something with, maybe it'll inspire a book. And I did that for a full year. And then at the end of that year, I was like, I have other creative things that are more aligned with my business that I want to spend time on. So I'm going to kind of transition from this. Now I have this amazing library for my
Hmm.
VIP clients. If they are into the magical stuff,
Yeah.
I'm just like, here's a bonus of like 50 classes that I've taught. You can do yoga with me every day of the week. And
Oh, wow.
so it's like, it's just a fun little resource. But in that place, it allowed me to test out ideas, think about like where I wanted my business to go. And like for a while, I was like, am I going to move in kind of the more magical spiritual direction? But I'm like, no, I actually, that's always available for people. But I really only want to work with business owners because I like
Yeah.
solving those problems. I'm never bored of talking about business in the way that other past iterations of my business, I kind of like got burnt out on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that's like having a, and I've really like learned that also from you, just like in talking about creativity as much as we do. Like there has to be some kind of a creative, regenerative outlet in my life. It doesn't have to have anything to do with business, but like it has to
Right.
be something where I'm like stretching my mindset, learning something different, and there's no stakes. There's no like
Yes.
business stakes to it.
Mm-hmm.
As I think otherwise what happens is we just like work all the time or we're thinking about work and it's I don't know,
Yeah.
like it gets like not it gets not fun. It's not fun.
Yeah. I love that. And I love the framework you shared of like I'm I give myself permission to do anything as long as I commit to it for a year. Because I think the balance of those two things, like if a commitment to doing it for a year isn't so much that you're like completely tied down and then you don't
Mm,
do anything, but it's enough of a commitment that I think it helps wrangle the parts of like the shiny object
yeah.
syndrome that can come up for
Yeah.
creative people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm allowed to start my next book if I'm going to finish it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of the way I really like test whether I really want to do something or it's just that, like you said, like a shiny object. Because I think it's funny that I don't actually think I like have that as when people talk about it, I'm just like, oh, what's that like? And then I'm like, oh, that's completely my nature, but it never feels like that's what I'm doing because I usually commit to something for long enough that I can figure out how to make it successful. And if I
Mm-hmm.
hate it or it doesn't work out, I'm not bound to it forever.
Yeah.
I think the other thing too is like, you said that for you, there are some like energetic times where you're like, ooh, this doesn't feel quite like I've maybe been running a little too much, a little too, this isn't
Mm-hmm.
even a sprint anymore. I'm like,
Yeah. I'm like being chased by a monster level of
right.
running, like that
Yeah.
sort of vibe.
Yeah. And I mean, this is maybe a total rabbit hole, but like for a while I was doing my work based on like my personal cycle. I was like, do I feel
Mm-hmm.
tired at different phases of my menstrual cycle? I have tried like, do I feel more tired depending on how the moon is? I'm like, if the new moon is happening, do I want to have a bunch of work? Not because I'm like pigeonholing myself into like, oh, we don't work on this is a
Right.
low energy, like not making a big thing about it, but just like experimenting, figuring
Yeah.
out your like chronotype or whatever like the scientific things about like when is your best creative time and when is your best this and
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, I figured out like I was actually working against most of those things for the better part of my life.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. Have you adjusted that then?
Oh yeah.
And like now that's amazing.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
rarely coach at night because I just know it's not
Mm-hmm.
my best thinking time.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely do creative work in the afternoon because it's not my most I can do it. It's just like I'm better at being curious at this time of day. I can coach 2, 3 p.m. Totally great. But
Yeah.
like it's not when I'm writing my novel.
Mm-hmm. You know what comes to mind when you say this? I know this phrase gets like bandied about a lot, but there's that it seems like that approach, giving yourself that freedom or permission comes from like such a place of abundance. And I've been thinking about like what prevents people from connecting with themselves and like their preferred pace of work, style of work. And I think maybe some of it is a lack of that or like a scarcity mindset, or I don't know. I'm curious. Like, I wonder if we can open up the conversation a little bit to talk about like why some people find that so challenging and what we can do about it.
Oh, I mean, it's such a good thing to think about because I'm like thinking, okay, I'm like, okay, on the flip side, if I hired someone and they were like, oh, I really don't do meetings at 2:30 because it's like my nap time, I would be
Hmm.
like, no, you're not a fit. Like that's when I need you because that's my nap time and you're
Oh,
supposed to
yeah.
be there to support me.
Hmm.
I think it might be like it's probably a total double standard that I have. And like I talk through this with clients. It's like sometimes you need your team can't work in the same way that you do. And it's really weird because often we'll like hire somebody who's similar. And it's like
Hmm.
this is actually a disaster because we have a gap in the day where no one really is thinking clearly. And then for the sake of everyone honoring themselves, we're dropping the ball and we're like making a mess. So I
Uh-huh.
think that there is actually sometimes a double standard within the expectation of culture is that's fine for us to explore as the entrepreneur. But if we have somebody working for us and we're paying them by the hour, they better be on it and crisp and ready to
Hmm.
go and like ready to take our call.
Yeah.
So I think it's tricky. And I know we
Yeah.
probably expect that of ourselves kind of subconsciously because that is the typical work culture.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think like for talking about like having employees, it's also a balance, right? Like you can create a culture, but like hire people who are complementary to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that can just be a part of that exchange. But I think some people don't even allow themselves to connect to that. Like, how do you, what do you think is in the way of people like
Hmm.
connecting to that in themselves?
I was talking about this with a client actually the other day, and it was kind of this whole like kind of the old like I don't know if it's like a Puritan standard of like
Yeah.
if I'm not working hard and stressed and like
Yeah, like
feeling
Puritan,
terrible about
capitalist.
myself and I like
Yeah.
idle hands, all this stuff. And I mean, I
Hmm.
in some ways I'm just like, okay, yeah, our self-worth is tied to our output and accomplishment. Like, sure, we kind of all, I think, know that intellectually, but it's very deep, I think, in
Hmm.
society. I mean, it's rare to talk to someone who loves their job. Even
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, like they're like, yeah, it's just so busy or it's so slow or it's so like no one it's almost like we're not supposed to love our work.
Hmm.
It's
Because
supposed
it's
to be the
work.
thing we
Yeah.
endure because we're working so hard. Because if you're like, I mean, it's nice that you said it appears that I have a good cadence, but like some people are offended by that.
I'm sure.
I've had a lot of people make really shitty comments about
Oh, I'm sure.
like, well, it must be nice to, I'm like, it is nice, actually. It's
Thank you.
very
You're
nice to
right.
work 40 days a week. It is lovely. It is lovely that my clients get my full tank of energy instead of me
Hmm.
being like, oh God, I'm so tired. Okay. All right. What do you want coaching? Like they're not getting like an exasperated version of me.
Yeah.
I also think that maybe I mean, this is something I have, I still grapple with is like your personal life should also not necessarily get the exasperated version. I still take my
What?
exasperation to my kids.
I feel personally attacked right now. I don't know about this.
It's funny. I'm like, oh,
Isn't that funny though? Yeah,
mommy's
like
so busy, guys. Mommy did three pastels today. Oh, I just need to put
and
my
she
feet
was
up.
so stressed out over what her clients would think of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. I was panicking because what if I didn't get it done and then they're not going to want to buy my Oracle deck or they're going to think I don't know what I'm doing? Very
High
stressed.
stakes, children. High stakes. Oh, that's too funny. Yeah.